All right, so get ready because today we are really diving deep into the mind of Carl Jung.
Whoa, I'm excited.
You've shared some really fascinating selections from Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious.
Yeah,
And honestly, this book, let me tell you, it's a wild ride.
it is.
We're going to try to unpack Jung's concept of the archetype,
Yay.
what it is, why it even matters, and how it shows up in literally everything,
Yeah.
from ancient myths to
Yeah.
like our everyday lives.
Yeah.
So get ready for some serious aha moments along the way.
I have a feeling you're going to love this.
I think so.
Jung was all about those light bulb moments,
Right.
especially when it comes to this idea that, like, we're not just shaped by our personal experiences,
Right.
but also by these universal ancient patterns he called archetypes.
You see, when I hear archetype, I immediately think Greek myths, heroes and monsters.
Right.
Not necessarily something that feels relevant to my life today.
Sure.
But Jung saw a very direct link between the two. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for Jung, archetypes weren't just figures in these old stories.
He saw them as like living blueprints for human experience,
Wow.
ingrained in our collective unconscious.
Okay.
So think of them like psychic DNA, passed down through generations,
Okay.
influencing how we see the world, how we relate to other people, even the choices we make,
Really?
often without us even realizing it.
So it's not like I wake up every morning and I'm like, time to channel my inner Hercules.
Yeah.
But that archetype might still be subtly influencing how I approach challenges in my daily life.
Exactly. It's less about conscious thought and more about these deep-seated patterns shaping our perceptions and our behaviors.
Okay.
Take the divine child archetype, for example.
Okay.
Jung found it echoed in cultures across the globe, often tied to religious figures,
Right.
but it also pops up in our own lives, right?
Sure.
That innate desire for wonder, for growth, even for a connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the divine child whispering.
I see it. I see it.
But things take a slightly darker turn when Jung introduces the shadow self.
Yeah. It's definitely where things get interesting.
It always sounded a little ominous to me.
It can't.
Yeah.
See, Jung didn't shy away from the messier, even hidden parts of the human psyche.
Oh.
He believed that everyone has a shadow side.
Hmm.
The part of ourselves where we bury all the qualities we deem unacceptable, maybe even shameful.
Right.
And this isn't just about, like, negative traits.
Okay.
Our shadow can hold positive aspects, too.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
How can the part of ourselves we try to hide away be positive?
Because sometimes those positive qualities, creativity, assertiveness, even deep passion, get shoved into the shadow because they don't fit the image we have of ourselves
Oh.
or what we think society expects.
Right.
Jung actually pointed to suppressed creativity as a major source of neurosis for many people.
Wow.
Imagine having a hidden talent you never explore because you're afraid of what people might think.
Right.
That's the shadow holding you back.
Wow. That's kind of heartbreaking, but it also makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I could definitely think of times I've held myself back from doing something I really wanted to because of fear or self-doubt.
Sure.
Is that my shadow at play?
It very well could be.
Yeah.
And for Jung, integrating your shadow, bringing those hidden aspects into the light of awareness was essential for achieving wholeness.
Okay.
He used a fascinating analogy from a fairy tale to illustrate this. He described a castle with a secret room, and in this room was a captive raven, desperate for light, hidden away.
Okay, now that's a powerful image.
It is.
Yeah.
For Jung, that raven was the shadow self,
Oh, wow.
longing to be acknowledged and integrated.
Oh.
And you see the same motif throughout mythology and literature, right?
Yeah.
The forbidden chamber, the hidden truth, the monster that turns out to be misunderstood.
Right.
It all speaks to the power of the shadow.
So the shadow is one side of the Jungian coin, then what's on the other side?
Right.
We talked about the animus earlier. And that's the part, I've got to admit, that really piqued my curiosity.
Well, that's where things get really juicy.
Right.
Jung dove headfirst into the idea of the inner other, the
Oh.
unconscious masculine and feminine energies within each of us.
Right.
He called the feminine principle in men the anima and the masculine principle in women the animus.
And this isn't about literal genders, right?
Right.
It's more about these primal energies that we all possess, whether we're male or female.
And remember, Jung loved to shake things up.
Right.
He was challenging the traditional views of gender,
Okay.
suggesting that to become whole, we need to embrace both the masculine and feminine aspects of ourselves.
So how does this actually play out in our lives?
Yeah.
I'm picturing some kind of epic inner battle between masculine and feminine energies.
Not quite an epic battle, but it can definitely feel like a tug of war sometimes.
Okay.
think about those really intense attractions we sometimes feel,
Right.
or even those like instant repulsions. Jung believed we often project these archetypes onto other people,
Oh, interesting.
seeing in them the qualities that are actually dormant within ourselves.
Hold on. Are you saying that when I'm intensely attracted to someone,
Yeah,
it could be because they embody my own anima or animus?
it is.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
And it can make a lot more sense of our relationship patterns.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed yourself drawn to a certain type?
Yeah.
Even if those relationships haven't always been healthy,
Right.
you would say you might be repeating a pattern,
Hmm.
trying to integrate those unconscious masculine or feminine qualities
Wow.
by seeking them out in other people.
I'm definitely going to need to unpack that one later.
Yeah.
But so, according to Jung, recognizing our shadow, understanding the animus, those are both key to personal growth.
Absolutely. He called this process individuation,
Oh,
becoming a complete integrated individual.
right.
And he didn't see it as a one-and-done deal, but an ongoing journey
Hmm.
of transformation and rebirth.
Well, it's interesting you say rebirth, because when I think of Jung, I think of
Yeah.
those classic mythological stories, like phoenixes rising from ashes, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Is that what he was getting at?
He was, but in a more grounded psychological sense.
Okay.
For Jung, rebirth wasn't just symbolic.
Okay.
It was an inner process we all experience,
Mm,
often triggered by major life events, losses, crises,
right.
anything that forces us to let go of old patterns and embrace new possibilities.
So it's like a psychic shedding of skin.
Right.
You mentioned that Jung drew on his research of primitive cultures for some of this.
Yeah.
Didn't he talk about loss of soul?
He did.
Okay.
And as dramatic as it sounds, it's something we can all relate to.
Okay.
He observed this phenomenon in various cultures,
Okay.
including indigenous tribes in North America,
Okay.
where they actually had rituals and ceremonies
Holy.
designed to help people reconnect with their lost soul.
What did that loss of soul look like?
It's essentially what we might call depression, or a
Yeah.
feeling of emptiness today.
Okay.
A sense of being disconnected from your true self, your vitality, your purpose.
Yeah.
And the rebirth, Jung described, comes when you reconnect with those deeper parts of yourself.
Oh, I see.
He saw it as the psyche's way of guiding us back to wholeness.
So we're not just these fragmented beings stumbling through life.
Right.
Our psyche is actually trying to weave it all together.
Yeah.
Even if it takes us through some rough patches along the way. Is that what you're saying?
That's a great way to put it.
Wow.
And speaking of the psyche expressing itself, Jung found a fascinating connection with what might seem like a surprising source, mandalas.
Those beautiful circular designs.
Yeah.
I've always found them so mesmerizing.
Yeah, they are.
But Jung saw them as more than just pretty pictures, right?
Much more. He was fascinated by the fact that these circular designs appear in cultures all over the world and throughout history.
Yeah, that's true.
He believed they were symbolic representations of the self's drive towards wholeness.
So a mandala is like a window into what's happening in our unconscious.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
And for Jung, they weren't just random doodles.
Okay.
He observed that they often popped up in people's dreams,
Oh, wow.
or during times of intense inner turmoil.
Interesting.
He saw it as the psyche's way of trying to find its center again, to reestablish a sense of order and balance.
Okay.
He even had patients create mandalas as part of their therapy.
Did he have any insights into what those mandalas meant?
He did. He paid close attention to the shapes, the colors, the overall composition,
Okay.
believing each element held symbolic significance.
Interesting.
For example, a chaotic jumble of lines might suggest inner turmoil,
Right.
while a more harmonious, symmetrical design could point to a greater sense of integration and peace.
I can see that.
He even observed that the colors people chose for their mandalas often shifted
Really?
as they went through the process of therapy and personal growth.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like the mandala itself was a reflection of their inner transformation.
Exactly. And for Jung, this wasn't just about art therapy.
Right.
It was about recognizing the power of the unconscious to communicate with us
Yeah.
through symbols, dreams, and even these spontaneous creative expressions.
Yeah.
He believed that by paying attention to these messages, we could gain valuable insights into ourselves and our own path to wholeness.
It's like our psyche has its own language.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if we just learn to speak it,
Right.
then we can unlock all these hidden, wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jung believed that engaging with these archetypes,
Yeah.
whether through dreams or myths, active imagination, or even mandalas, it was really important for personal growth.
It's critical.
Like it's about becoming aware of the unconscious forces
Mm.
that shape our lives.
Right.
so we can actually make more conscious choices.
Yes.
It's like those aha moments when you suddenly see a pattern in your life
Right.
that you were blind to before. And Jung's work is full of those, I gotta say.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, some of this can feel pretty heavy, you know?
Yeah.
Is this really something we can actively work with?
Yeah, I think
Or it's more about just letting those unconscious forces do their thing?
Jung wouldn't want us to just sit back and let things happen.
Right.
He believed we have a responsibility to engage with our unconscious,
Okay.
to become conscious participants in our own growth.
So where do we even begin?
Right.
Like if someone's listening right now and they're thinking,
Yeah.
okay, this is all fascinating,
Right.
but what do I do with it?
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
I would say start by paying attention.
Okay.
Pay attention to your dreams.
Okay.
What archetypes, what recurring motifs just keep popping up?
Right.
Pay attention to those intense attractions or repulsions that you might feel towards others. Like,
Oh.
what might they be telling you about yourself?
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to sort of explore your shadow side a little. What's that hidden talent or passion that you've been ignoring?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's about becoming curious about the hidden workings of our own minds.
Right.
Like we spend so much time trying to figure out the external world,
Right.
but Jung is saying, hey,
Yeah.
there's this whole universe inside you
Right.
waiting to be explored.
Exactly.
And that exploration, that journey inward, that's ultimately what Jung believed led to true individuation,
It is.
to becoming like a more complete and authentic version of ourselves.
It really is.
It's not about achieving some like perfect state of enlightenment.
Right.
It's a lifelong process
It is.
of self-discovery.
Yes.
And the more we understand these archetypes, these universal patterns,
Right.
the more we realize we're not just like isolated individuals,
Right.
but part of something much larger than ourselves.
Exactly. Much larger.
Connected by this collective unconscious
Yeah.
and these ancient shared experiences.
Powerful. Right.
It's a lot to wrap your head around. But in a way, it's also incredibly hopeful, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like a reminder that even in our darkest moments,
Yeah.
even when we feel lost or alone,
Yeah.
there's this like profound wisdom within us,
Yeah.
guiding us towards wholeness, towards connection, and ultimately towards our own unique potential.
It's beautiful.
That's a beautiful thought to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into the world of Jungian psychology.
Oh, you're very welcome. This was fun.
It's definitely given me a lot to reflect on, that's for sure.
Yes, it did.
And for everyone listening, remember what we've learned today?
Yes.
The unconscious is always speaking.
Always.
The question is, are you listening?
That's the question.